Hello! In this video, I want to return to my old friend Whatifalthist and his take on the current state of the US politics. Okay, let us first see what he has to say and then I'll respond.
I would say we've already seen Trump have 4 years in office. I do think Trump is the best president in living memory, which may sound dramatic, but here's a text wall to explain why.
Okay, just when you look at this text wall, it raises many questions. Okay, so number two, I'm genuinely asking these questions, so if you have an idea about what he's talking about, then write it in the comment section. Maybe even I can get educated about this. But number two, Trump was the only president since the 1960s who saw an increase in quality of life for poor Americans. Now, in my mind, Trump is famous for doing tax cuts for the wealthy and due to COVID essentially losing a lot of jobs in the end. Now, I'm really not aware of Trump making lives better for an average American. Like, what the hell is he talking about? And I do think that, we all have to acknowledge that due to COVID, the lockdowns started under Trump. So you could make the case that it's not his fault, but then why can't we make the same case about Biden and inflation or about many other US presidents? Like, is Richard Nixon to blame for the fact that Yom Kippur War happened and caused inflation? Like, you could say no, but he's still remembered as a guy that had pretty bad inflation under his rule. Then okay, let us see. I'll explain my position about Trump in a moment, but for example, okay, Whatifalthist says that Trump was the first American president who was serious on China. Okay, I am willing to give credit to Trump and say, okay, he did speak about the rise of China being a threat to the United States, but when you look at Biden's policy, Biden pretty much continued all of Trump's policies towards China, and Biden even went a step further and said that he would defend Taiwan militarily, which I remember at the moment that was even a mini scandal, and some people have accused Biden of being too hawkish on China. But if you think that America should take a strong stand against China, then Biden was actually pretty good on China. He did lose an ability to speak near the end of his term. That was bad, but his policy towards China, I hope then we can agree, was pretty good. But okay, let us continue. Okay, so in this part of the video, Whatifalthist goes completely off the rails and he's just failing to notice what is happening in front of his eyes. Okay, let us continue.
Minority appeals, the college system, corporate America, amongst other things. The reason the left hates Trump so much is that he is a single man who's defied their entire order. Inside Trump is a story of how the left is completely wrong and evil. Read this text wall if you're interested, but Trump is a man who was successful enough.
Okay, here are a couple of examples of why not just the left, but even many traditional conservatives, as Arnold Schwarzenegger, for example, strongly dislike Trump and even hate him. So, and this is actually the most frustrating part of the video. Whatifalthist focuses on some like fringe woke people and some extreme leftist beliefs that are not really so influential. At least when it comes to leftist politicians actually trying to implement these policies. But okay, I would be really interesting in knowing what is Whatifalthist's take on Trump threatening to annex Canada. Is there some brilliant plan behind it? Many conservatives claim that Trump often pretends to be a madman in order to achieve something, which, okay, sometimes that is probably the truth, but when it comes to threatening to invade Canada and annex it, like, what's the end goal here? Like, just give me a possible explanation that could result in something good. Like, is his idea to annex only half of Canada, so he is then demanding an entirety? of Canada. I mean, that kind of behavior brings us back to the jungle, as Yuval Noah Harari or Henry Kissinger would say. That type of behavior brings us back to the pre-World War II order, when like everybody was attacking everybody, when wars of conquest were quite common. In these 80 years after World War II, Henry Kissinger claims in many regions of the world, like Europe, America, both Americas actually, most of Asia, we have been able to actually make wars of conquests a taboo, something that rarely happens, which is why Putin's invasion on Ukraine is so outrageous. But Trump, with his rhetoric, is trying to bring us back to a much darker time, a time when the law of conquest was the only law that mattered. And even if Trump is just lying or just espousing crazy rhetoric that will not result in anything, well, that still matters. What you say matters, especially if you're a president of the United States. And I'm kind of sick of this argument that ultimately what Trump says doesn't matter. It does matter, because he's the most powerful man on the planet currently. And yeah, honestly, I'm actually disappointed in Whatifalthist. So in this video, he reminds me of school children in the Soviet Union that were given a task of writing an essay like 10 reasons why I admire Stalin. And then they just like write about how they admire Stalin. Yeah, that's Whatifalthist in this video, but Trump is Stalin. Like, he's even refusing to present any valid argument against Trump. Like, I've seen some conservative YouTubers like Ben Shapiro that are also critical of Trump. So some of them actually acknowledge that Trump is flawed. But Whatifalthist really like seems to just glorify his great leader in this video. That's why I'm really beginning to lose respect for Whatifalthist. There was a time when we had reasonable disagreements about things, but at this point, either he's afraid to criticize Trump because what I'm talking about Whatifalthist, because he believes that he will lose subscribers if he does that, or he's just too crazy to notice that there is anything wrong with the president of the United States threatening to invade Canada, Greenland, and Mexico. And then he goes on to say that Zelensky is a dictator, which also is just not true and is in fact harmful, and is just making the Russian position stronger in the negotiations, which also one has to wonder how is it good for the United States that the country they are currently like engaged in a proxy war with, that Trump is making their position stronger. One also has to wonder like what's the brilliant plan behind that. But okay, let us continue. So in this part of the video, Whatifalthist gives us an example of crazy behavior on the left. So okay, let us hear it and then I'll respond.
Recently with this demographic of leftist. For example, young women leaving TikTok, going to the Chinese app Red Note, and saying China is a wealthier and a freer society than America. And I'm thinking, by literally no metric you could possibly choose, is that true? I've been to China, man, and it's not that nice. Even the nicest cities. Or I'll see other stuff where they'll say that the cartels will beat the US military. And I thought, you know literally nothing about warfare if you believe that. That's just
Okay, so I actually agree that there is this naive branch of leftism that glorifies China, that kind of says, look at their trains, they have super fast trains, we should be more like China. Well, okay, in that aspect, yeah, they have better trains, but they have less freedom, are doing worse demographically than the United States, and due to their very aggressive foreign policy, they kind of managed to get surrounded by enemies like India, Japan, Vietnam, Taiwan, a very pragmatic alliance with Russia that could end in the near future and also result in conflict over Siberia. And that's in fact why I'm so disturbed by Trump, because he's trying to create the same environment for the United States. He's threatening his long-term allies for a reason that isn't obvious to me. Like, you can tell me in the comment section if any reason comes to mind. But okay, yeah, I am willing to admit that some people on the left kind of naively glorify China. But yeah, what has been happening with people on the right and Russia is at least equally disturbing. I mean, I hope that at this point, Whatifalthist also acknowledges that American society, generally speaking, is a better place to live than Russia. I hope. I mean, I guess Trump still hasn't said that Russia is better than America, so Whatifalthist still believes that America is better than Russia. Or at least I hope he believes so. But okay, let us continue.
Is all motivated by white men just makes no logical sense given the left has the power. They have to know that subconsciously, but the only way they can cover this up is to increase the noise of their propaganda to balance out the outside world. This is why they need to say Trump and Elon are Nazis, which is obviously not true.
Okay, let me just respond to his broader point. I mean, other than that, Elon Musk decided to zig Heil for some reason. I don't know how Whatifalthist explains that, but okay, this idea that since cultural institutions are dominated by the left, like Hollywood and the academia, which I do think that more accurate thing to say would be that it's dominated by liberals and identity politics, but okay, this idea that because of that there can be no right-wing dictatorship is just not true. I mean, let us look at communist dictatorships. Some of them even ended up abolishing religion, and at the same time they had a very powerful church inside of their state, like a very powerful religious institution that was unable to do anything. And that's what's so, in a way, fascinating about Maoist attempt to wipe out religion and the Soviet attempt to do something similar. Communist regimes that were atheistic found themselves in charge of a peasant army that was mostly religious, yet they were able to kill a lot of priests, in some instances even outlaw religion and ban churches. As Mao Zedong had said, if you control the military, you control the state. And the ultimate question is, will the United States military side with a dictator, or do the United States generals still believe in freedom and democracy too much? That's the crucial question. And I don't know what's the answer to that question. Like, if Trump really tries to somehow proclaim a dictatorship because of some extreme scenario, like war or something, would the generals listen, or would they rebel? And what would even happen? Like, would they then try to establish some kind of military dictatorship? I don't know, but okay, that's a topic for another video, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.